Hey, everybody, welcome to the Hoyt Bowhunting Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Farris. Got my sidekick, Evan Williams, with me. And today we have Kolby Hanley from UltraView. Exciting new archery company. You've probably seen them around. Man, products with a fit and finish that have taken things to a brand new level. How's it going, Kolby? Thanks for coming on today, bud.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Things are
Hey,
going
buddy.
good. I mean, it's we're strapped to a rocket ship down here. Every day is a new battle, but we're trying to enjoy the journey best we can.
Yeah, I
Yep,
don't, man.
absolutely.
I'm kind of surprised because I was expecting somebody older. Like,
Well,
I don't know why, but just looking at these products and looking at the packaging that these products are coming in, I was like, man, this is somebody that's been around the block. And I, not to say that you haven't, but man, you don't look old enough to be doing
I'll
this stuff.
I'll tell you, I'm collecting some gray hair somewhere. Hasn't started poking through yet, but when it comes, it's going to come in full force.
Join the rest of us. Yep.
Yeah. No, that's
Taylor, you guys know Taylor pretty well. He jokes that he started working here with a full head of hair.
I won't out him. I'll just agree that yeah, sure.
He doesn't have a full head of hair now. Let's put it
Does
that way.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, we want to dig into the history here. How did you first get into archery, and how did all this happen?
Oh gosh, I guess strap in because that's a story, and
Yeah.
actually Hoyt is pretty pivotal in it too. So I'm from Vermont, born and raised in a super small town in northern Vermont. It's a town named Cambridge. A lot of people go in the area for skiing. They know Stowe. It's a great ski resort. I'm on the other side of the mountain from Stowe, and I was watching a show. It's called Survivor Man. As
Oh, yeah.
like an 8 or 9 year old kid, bored on summer vacation, and he was out in the woods and he made a bow, out of a little sapling or something, and he shot a frog with it, and then he cooked the frog over a fire, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever, and I just was bored, so I'm like, well, I'm gonna go do that, and so I went out back and I made a little bow out of a sapling, and I did not shoot a frog with it, but I was just practicing and making a new bow every day just to see how far I could fling an arrow in the backyard.
Yeah.
Well, after doing that for I don't know how many months it was, mom and dad for Christmas that year, she must have walked by like I don't know, she must have been in a Dick's or a Cabela's or something and saw a little toy archery like Christmas set, and I was probably 9 years old at the time, and she got it for Christmas and got it under the tree, and I was pumped, man. Let me tell you, like it was, I don't know, it's the toy set that you guys, I'm sure, are imagining.
Oh yeah.
And that was the only toy as a kid that I played with. I did not put that thing down ever. And so that was for Christmas. My birthday was in May. I was still playing with that toy. So they're like, well, let's take him down to the local archery shop, and this is something he's into. So let's just, give him to someone that knows what they're doing. And so we went to Pelkey's Archery. They're a fantastic archery shop in Vermont. The owner at the time, his name was Ron Pelkey, and he did a fantastic job setting me up with. I think it was like a Parker compound bow or something. And once again, it's the only thing I ever played with, and I shot and shot and shot. And at the time, you guys are familiar with JOAD, right? With USA
Mhm.
Archery,
Oh, yeah.
the Junior
Yep.
Olympic Development Archery Program. They had JOAD classes at that shop. And it was a great way, for me to learn good technique and really get into the sport at a deeper level. And I got involved in JOAD at Pelkey's Archery. And I mean, it was just an obsession that I did not stop with. And I got on their, what they call the road team, which is really like the highest level of their JOAD teams. And what the road team was is you just traveled regionally to all the archery shoots in the Northeast. So got on that team, and then I started, hopping in a buddy's car, and we would drive down to Massachusetts and shoot a little archery tournament over the weekend. I met a lot of great friends that I'm still connected to this day doing that. And it was, like I said, an obsession that I just could not get enough of. And that led to, I wanted to make the USA team and compete, kind of at the highest level.
Hmm.
And so I had to, to make the USAT team or the junior USAT team, you have to go to all these outdoor qualifying events. And the tricky thing is they're self-funded. So I had to, not only practice enough to get at a decent level to where, it was worth my money and time to go to these events because I may make the team. But I then had to find side hustles, jobs, do fundraisers to generate the funds to pay for, at the start, what was me and my grandmother to go to these events because I couldn't rent a car. And,
Right.
both my parents were working full-time jobs. And so I had to pay for me and grandma, still my biggest fan, to go to these USAT events. And that, I made the junior USAT team. I think it was like 4 years. I made that team straddling high school and college, kind of that time frame in my life. And that was kind of how I got into archery. And while competing, I met a guy named George Riles, known in the archery industry as Griv. He's down here in Atlanta, Georgia. He has the Archery Learning Center right down the road from our facility here. Got plugged in with him. Fantastic compound archery coach. I mean, in my humble opinion, one of the best on earth when it comes to compound, really any archery technique. He's done it all. So got plugged in with him and his team, and then started traveling with what are called the Hornets. So then I started my entire life just got sucked up into what was, high level competitive archery. And then that kind of got in a mix when I was at Georgia Tech. And that's when I started making my own archery equipment. And that's when UltraView kind of started.
So is that how you ended up in Georgia from Vermont, is going to Georgia Tech?
Yeah, so I was down here pretty frequently to meet up with George and his team to split travel costs and Airbnbs and rental cars. And I know you guys see it done all the time. And I was talking to George about what I want to do with my college and career and where I want to go. And at the time, I was an undecided engineer at the University of Vermont, just in-state, saving money with low tuition, still had to take out student loans even in state. And he said, well, what you kind of just said there sounds like you'd have a pretty big interest in what would be material science. And I said, that sounds awesome. Like, what is that? And then he's like, it's a field of study that looks like this, and Georgia Tech has a program for it. His wife worked at Georgia Tech too at the time. And well, then I started getting, my ducks in a line to transfer from UVM to Georgia Tech after about 2 or 3 semesters of staying in state. And so then I transferred to Georgia Tech. Gosh, when was that? Feels like it was forever ago. That was, I think that was in 2017.
Oh,
is
wow.
when I officially transferred to Georgia Tech. And I mean, it wasn't 2 months and my entire life had changed. I mean, I remember I moved down to Georgia Tech with $1,200 in my bank account and taking out student loans, and I was just going to figure it out. And I got super, super lucky because I pulled a random, dormitory or apartment, random group of kids, didn't know them. And a lot of them were involved in what are called maker labs at Georgia Tech. So there's multiple spaces on campus now. When I was there was really 1 or 2. Now there's like dozens. These are labs at Georgia Tech full of 3D printers, CNC machines, laser cutters, circuit board, electronics, solder stations. If you can dream it, you can make it. And it's free to the students to use 24/7 if you're friends with the instructors in these labs, which I happen to get connected with through my roommates. Well, I was in those maker labs. Guess what? You never guess. Making my own archery gadgets. So they typically served a purpose, for me with my archery at the time. So a lot of people that have followed UltraView from the very beginning, they know it really started with 3D printed, grips and release accessories. And the reason why is because I was in these labs messing around with 3D printers, and I would make my own release accessories that fit my fingers better, or a grip that I, fit my hand or made me more consistent. And it generally, like I said, served a purpose. It made my archery easier. And this is a great story too. You guys will like this. Technically, the very first product that we sold was a light kit. Oh gosh, we sometimes have them kicking around here. I don't think I have any in the room right
like
now.
a sight light kit.
Yeah, like a
Okay.
sight light kit. So, at the time I was shooting a lot of 3D archery, and some of the lights out there are like the Zebros or the LP. It's an external battery pack with red and black wires that tangle through your sight, and you screw them in, and it's got a massive LED, and you got to use an up pin and all that. Well, as a target archer that typically just shot 50-meter world archery, I hated the up pin. I hated all the wires and the batteries and all the junk. And so I'm like, there has to be a better way of doing this. And what was the first idea was it still had a battery pack and wires, but the thing I really wanted to eliminate was the up pin. So I bought an ultraviolet pen light from Amazon. They're like $19.95. And I took just the ultraviolet head off of it. And then I made my own battery pack with 2 AAA batteries, a 3D printed enclosure, and I hand soldered the wire and connector onto the back end of this LED light. And then I 3D printed what you can imagine was like a gooseneck type shape on top of the scope to shine into the scope to light up a center drilled piece of fiber or a fluorescent sticker dot on the lens. And I said, George, this is what I've made. It works great. He said, you should sell these. So I set up an Etsy store at the time, because that was an Etsy store. That was the only place I knew where to sell things conveniently online. And looking back, I just maybe got really lucky. But this was when Facebook Live was huge.
Yeah.
Like this was when I think it was Periscope was an app where people could go live, and Facebook Live was like a competitive platform to that. Well, at the time, George was doing Facebook Lives all the time, and they got tens of thousands of views. And George was like, let's randomly, like I was just in the shop shooting, and George was like, let's put up a live, let's show the world what you got here. And we took through this thing, and what we called it was the UltraView light kit, because it used ultraviolet light to help you view better, because there was no need for an up pin in the scope. So we went live on Facebook with the UltraView light kit. Buy it here now, Etsy store linked. And in like 5 minutes, it crashed the Etsy store, because we sold so many of them that it breached some threshold, and it set off some like, this account is fraudulent or something. And then I was sitting there like, holy crap, I have, all these people money that they paid me to make this light. I don't have enough parts to make all these lights. And, I don't have enough printers to make all these things. So then it was like, ever since that very day, I feel like I've been, a little behind the demand curve on just running to keep up. And that was in 2017.
Wow.
And that's a great story, because that's why the company is named UltraView, is because the very first gadget that like we really actually sold was the UltraView light kit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. And that's I can't believe the turnaround between then and now. I mean, that's what, 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
I don't know if you guys can maybe cut this in after the fact, but I got a memory on my phone yesterday, literally to the day. I'll throw it up here. This was the basement of George's house with my 3D printers.
That's awesome.
This is what UltraView headquarters looked like 6 years ago to the day.
That's what it started out as.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the light was the first thing, and then I'm like, well, what else? what else can I use this 3D printer for and make, useful? Like, I never wanted to make junk. I wanted to make useful products for people. And I'm like, a thumb knob, a release accessory, grips. So then I started, designing grips I had them for Hoyt bows, Matthews bow. Every bow on the market. I had release accessories for every release you could name on the market. And I would print them all overnight. I would then, if you 3D print things, a lot of times there's support that you need to print underneath overhangs and stuff. So I had a dozen printers in my room running 24/7. Occasionally they would like crash or break at night, and they go like really loud, and it would wake me up at like 2 a.m. in the morning, and I'd have to go underneath my bed and fix it and then go back to sleep. But I would take off all the parts, put them in a 5-gallon bucket, and then I would drive to the ALC, hand them off to Zach Harris. We call him Bruce. Yep. He still works here. He would clean them up, get them all ready, and then we'd swap buckets, once or twice a week. And then I wish I still felt this way. I do. It's a lot more nowadays, but I was like geeked out. Every Friday night, I could not wait to lock myself in my dorm room, print out all my order slips, and piece together everybody's order, box them up, write a thank you in the lid and tape it up, put the shipping label on it. And then that Monday, I'd walk literally with like huge bags across campus with all these archery equipment to the post office and drop off hundreds of Etsy orders to the Georgia Tech post office. And I made good friends with them there. And that was just like, it was the best time of my life was packaging up 3D printed lights, release accessories, and grips and dropping them off at the college post office. And I tell everybody to this day, I'm involved in, nowadays I'm involved in a lot of the entrepreneurial like startup programs at Georgia Tech. I sit on like a couple of the boards and I help with their programs and stuff. And I tell some of the investors there, I said, if you want to know what companies to invest in, go to the post office and ask the lady at the front desk, who are the top 3 weirdest kids that are just dropping off repetitive shipments out of the post office, because it happens regularly. Yeah. I know of 2 other Georgia Tech startups where they have the same story. Once a week, they'd go to the post office with a pile of shipments to ship out to customers.
I know another guy who has a business. It's the same type thing. He's in his basement and he's got probably close to 2 dozen 3D printers running all the time, and he's making a product that is it's a stand for your laptop that gamers use. And I don't know the details of it, but it was the same thing. Like, he made one for himself. Right. And somebody else was like, oh man, that's really cool. I'd like one of those. And then eventually they did some sort of, promotion on Facebook or something like that. And the next thing you know, it's taking over his life,
Yep.
That is, what a crazy, crazy story. I didn't expect any of that. So tell me a little bit about the degree that George kind of got you into. And is it an engineering degree? And how is that kind of led in? Because you take one look at you guys' line and you're like, man, there's some engineers working on that are talented.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, I'm not the only Georgia Tech alumni, that's a part of UltraView nowadays, but I got a material science engineering degree from Georgia Tech. I did finish it, thank God, because if I had to do one more semester, I don't know if I could have done it, because I balanced 3 semesters with an UltraView as a side hustle while finishing a degree, and that was very, very difficult. But I am a nerd. I am very much a nerd. I watch all the nerdy YouTube videos, and I still geek out on things. And I love nothing more than like good mechanical engineering and machining and parts and finishes and materials. And my dream job, actually, when I transferred to Georgia Tech, was to be a material scientist on the internal fan blades of commercial jet engines. because I'm a nerd, and planes, I'm a plane nerd. And, if a plane's flying overhead, I like to take a guess as to what model it is, and I'll pull an app up on my phone, and I'm getting better at it by the day. But I had my dream job, literally my dream job. Sounds crazy now, but it was to be a material scientist working for GE Aviation on internal fan blades of their commercial jet engines. I had that it was an internship, but it was going to lead to a career there. I had that all lined up, paperwork signed, everything. And I entered into, this was kind of in parallel. My friends forced me, multiple friend groups that were unassociated, forced me into what was called Inventure Prize at Georgia Tech with what I was doing with UltraView. They said, you got to do it. You got to do it. You're going to win. You're going to win. I'm like, fine. I'll do it. And what Inventure Prize is, I actually know way more about it now than I did when I entered into it. It's the nation's largest undergraduate invention competition. Started at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's been doing it now for probably close to 15 years. It is now hosted at all ACC schools in the Southeast. And it's the nation's largest invention competition, but it's really very similar to Shark Tank in a way.
Okay.
And so there's all these teams. A lot of the time it's the senior design teams. Like with engineering, you do like a capstone or a design project at the end where it's typically company sponsored and you're solving a real world problem. And a lot of the times it's teams that came up with a great product and they enter in. Well, here I am with my archery gadgets. And, I set up, this is in between. I mean, Evan, I probably shook your hand at Vegas and indoor nationals, like in between competing at this competition because I was out at a trade show, in Vegas, back in town, taking surprise exams at Georgia Tech that I didn't know I had to take that day, going to pitch at Inventure Prize, and then flying out to Louisville, Kentucky to indoor nationals. And there's many rounds to get to the finals. The quarterfinals, semifinals. Each one is a pitch, and you got, your deck and your product and your pitching. Well, I happen to find myself in the finals. They only took 6 teams, and it's a very Shark Tank similar. There's 3 judges, full live studio audience packed in a theater. They broadcast it live on like Georgia Public Television or something like that. And I remember it vividly standing backstage, like, so nervous to step out in front and like give the pitch that, could possibly be completely life-changing. And the winner gets $20,000, no strings attached, seed funding. They get automatic acceptance into Georgia Tech's Startup Accelerator program and a free U.S. patent filing for their invention.
Wow.
And I can remember it vividly to this day. I just stepped out and I'm like, I remember standing there and the lights came on and like a sense of calm just came right over me. And like, I was just zoned right in on the 3 judges and I gave the best pitch of my entire life. And, I remember waiting as they're calling, the winner and, they said UltraView. And I remember I like dropped to my knees. And I mean, that was like the most life-changing point in my entire life was that night. Because to circle back to, your original question, like my degree and, my career, that all of that is what it took to convince me that what I was doing with UltraView was special and it was worth pursuing, and jumping in 100% because, it was always just a side hustle at the time. And I'm like, is this, are these, at the time, there very much were archery gadgets at the time. Like, is this a full-time career for me, or is this just a, flavor in my chapter of life here?
Right.
And it took winning that to go, okay, snap out of it. Like, you should do this.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was the money aside, the patent aside, all that aside, what it was confidence that what I was doing was special and worth pursuing. And honestly, if I had not won that competition, UltraView would probably still be around, but it would be at a totally different scale.
Right.
So which product was it that won it?
This I do know we have next door. I won't grab it, but it was called Starlight was the name of the product.
Mm-hmm.
It is very similar to what our scopes, our UV3 and our UV3 XL scopes look like now, just a very infant, what would now be a prototype phase of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a full 3D printed scope with integrated electronics and a magnetic battery pack. Super cool. We should probably do this again as a company because it was slick. You had a scope with an integrated light, and when you snapped the magnetic battery on top, the battery and touching the neodymium magnets completed an electrical circuit, and it turned the light on in the scope. So it was just like magic. You slapped it on, and it lit your dot up so bright, and then you could adjust the brightness with the dial.
Oh, wow.
And so we called it the Starlight scope, and that was the integrated light. And I said earlier, all the battery packs and the wires, and like it eliminated all that, eliminated the up pin. And to this day, that's the heart of our scope technology, is eliminating for target archers the need for an up pin and having a fully integrated, sexy, streamlined, clean, easy to use light, that uses ultraviolet light to illuminate your pins and reticles.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, that's still the heart of our scope technology.
It's one of the things that struck me when I first saw your products, and it was on the shelves, was the packaging.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the packaging got your attention, and it was like next level. It's almost like you can't have a product that is next level without packaging it like that to get the attention to look at the thing in the first place, because the tolerances there have to be. I haven't seen anything like it. You grab that knob and start to adjust it, and you're like, whoa, this is different.
Yeah, so I'll tell you kind of the secret behind what we do here that I think makes us a little special is we absolutely obsess over the customer experience. Our sole mission here is very short and easy to understand. It's provide unrivaled customer experiences.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And so for us, that is from the first time if this is the first time, other shoulder. If this is the first time someone sees an UltraView logo, we want this to be a premium, unrivaled experience all the way through how they find our products on our website, how they order them. It's very convenient to order, our products. They're easy to understand. You can get them from our website, Lancaster. You can get them anywhere conveniently.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do get them, it's going to show up in an UltraView box. And then in that box, you're going to have a fully branded, clean, like you said, packaging. And it's not just the product that we give attention to, because we believe if you have a quality product, everything else around it should also be thought of, and every touch point should also be quality. If you get a product and it comes in, a clamshell bag and this rattling around, it's, in our opinion, we believe that's disrespectful, not just to the customer, but to the product itself.
Mm-hmm.
We put a lot of time. There are features. I actually have a slider here in case I needed to talk about it, but there are features in this that we don't talk about in our marketing. We don't call it out. In fact, you can't even see some of the engineering decisions and features and what makes this feel great. But we spent the time and we challenged our manufacturing partners to do it and do it right. And, we want to make sure that we package and present this in a way where when you get this, there is not a shadow of a doubt that you have the most premium bow hunting site that has ever been made.
And like I said, I was blown away by the packaging on there. I was like, man, they put some effort and some expense into the packaging. It's packaging that you don't want to throw away.
Yeah, I mean, even down to the releases, like whether it's an H2 or a button, like Kolby, it's immaculate. The laser cut foam and the way everything just fits and is snug, and just the presentation alone.
Yeah, actually, that's another great story. Is you're never ever going to guess how I got the idea for our packaging.
How?
Vegas shoot. This was probably 2018 or 2019 at the Vegas shoot. Every every time we're in Vegas, my wife and I like to go out and get, one nice dinner or something. And we went to like a nice fancy dinner on the Strip, on Friday night during the Vegas shoot. And I'm, like I said, customer experience, all me. So dining and restaurants and the food experience, I'm so into that. I'm a foodie and every detail matters. Well, right when I thought everything was done, I thought everything was over. We got our check, we paid for it, we were walking out. And as we were leaving, the hostess greeted you and she gave you a boxed, it was like a little handmade muffin is what it was, but it was in a box, no bigger than this little like laptop charger. And it, very similar to UltraView packaging, had a magnetic closing lid, and it folded up and it presented the muffin, and it had a little, like, I think the name of the restaurant was Picasso, had a little Picasso logo right there. And I'm like, right when I thought this was over, they hit me with a packaged muffin to leave as a parting gift.
And just to make sure you had enough, we're gonna add a little treat to the end of it.
Yep. And you know what I never did is I never threw that box away.
Yeah.
It was orange. It's orange. I still have it. It's at my house. And when we were designing the Hinge 1 and it came to packaging, I'm like, we gotta up our game here. Our packaging is not up to my standard on what I want.
Get away from clamshells and
yeah. And I'm like, what are we doing? I'm like, and I thought about what experiences have I had with packaging that just really left me going like, holy cow, that was awesome.
My muffin.
Couldn't forget about it. My muffin. I couldn't forget about it. And so that was, the magnetic closing lid and very similar box. That was how we got the idea for our packaging. And then I went out and it was very difficult to find vendors. And
I bet,
it's challenging because you have to have it probably cost less than what most people would assume. It's really not a huge line item on the bill of materials. The tricky thing is you got to have volume.
Yeah.
And so when you look at our products, and this is another kind of, secret, not so secret that we do, is we have a very streamlined product ecosystem. UV button only comes in 4 SKUs, period. And, it's unofficially the number 1 selling thumb button release on the market. 4 SKUs. It's all you have to pick. And because we're very streamlined, we're very deliberate about what goes into our products, how they look and they feel. We get those economies of scale, and we can do special things like, present it in these very nice, unrivaled customer experience level packaging.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that caught my eye immediately on your website was the try before you buy. I have never seen anything like that in my life.
I just
free.
Don't have anything in here today.
Free. Try before you buy. I was like, you got to be kidding
We don't have
me.
one in here. Yeah. So that was how did I think of that? That was how the try before
which
you...
is super important for a release, by the way, because it might look, you don't know whether that's going to work for you until you have that shape in your hand.
Yep. So that actually, I just to re-jog my memory on how that became a thing. So we launched the Hinge 1 at the Vegas shoot in, I believe, 2019. I may have to be fact checked on that. And it was not a big motivating factor in designing the Hinge, all of our releases, was we started with the human hand first, and then we packaged in all of the advanced features. It's very easy to pack in a laundry list of features if you don't care about how the release looks or feels in your hand.
Right.
And the number 1 metric on a release is putting it in your hand consistently and comfortably. And so the first step in designing our releases was measuring people's hands. And as a result of our, pivot point and our hook location and the radiuses of the finger beds and how they fall, it is the most comfortable release you'll ever put in your hands. You can draw an 80-pound hunting bow with that thing, and it's not going to rip your index finger off because the weight is evenly distributed amongst them.
83, by the way.
Oh, okay. And
look at him flex.
I know.
And honestly, it is so comfortable because the low distribution of weight, for me, like, I can really focus on getting it into that middle finger, and I'm not having to really crank that forward, and it's all on my index.
Exactly. Yeah. And so a lot of handhelds out there put way too much, pressure on your index finger as you draw. And when you draw release, George coaches us. You put your hand in your release when you're about to draw, and you shouldn't move it. Any movement is added inconsistency. So with UV button, you can put your hands in it, draw back with full distribution across all your fingers consistently without readjusting. With other releases, if you're going to draw, honestly, even a 60-pound target bow with some of these releases on your index finger, you'll develop a callus right here. I remember back in the day, that thing got quite crazy. But you, like Evan just showed, you draw it pretty much like this so it doesn't go off. And then you readjust your fingers back here and you may fall into your click. With our releases, you can put your fingers in it. You don't have to move them. You can draw. You could draw a 100-pound hunting bow and it's still going to feel comfortable. And it wasn't 30 minutes after launching that product and selling it at the booth in Vegas, and I heard people go, this is like, the second someone put it in their hands, they're like, I gotta have this. This is the next best thing since sliced bread. And I'm like, all they had to do is put it in their hand and feel how comfortable this was. And so at this point, we were machining our products. I had 24 3D printers that were not doing anything other than collect dust. And I was like, is there a way that we can just put this release in as many hands as possible so people can just feel how comfortable it is? I was like, we'll just 3D print. We'll get the CAD file, make it a full solid, without the assembly, and we'll just 3D print exact replicas of the hinge. And so we fired back up the 3D printers, and they ran 24/7 making try before you buys. We put them on our website for free. You just pay shipping. Every order that we shipped out the back door got one, whether they liked it or not. And then, it got to a scale where we're like, all right, we just got to injection mold these things because our printers couldn't keep up.
Right.
And so we invested in a relatively cheap core cavity mold, and, we get them in by the pallet now, and it's a great fidget toy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you can actually hook that try before you buy release up to your bow and draw with it in the whole 9 yards. It's functional, just not, going to release.
Yeah, we don't recommend. In fact, on it, it's like embossed on it, maximum 30 pounds.
Okay.
So we, product liability reasons and all.
Sure.
But, you didn't hear it from me, but, they're rugged.
Right.
And so we recommend using a shot trainer. But yes, the whole point is you can feel it with a shot trainer or a piece of string. And really what we're finding now is it's not back in the day, it was a, marketing piece, learn about the brand, learn about the product. But really what it is now is it helps people make a purchasing decision because the try before you buy comes in size medium. And so what people can do is they can get the free try before you buy, see how it fits their hand. Because we get asked all the time, do I need a large? Do I need a medium? Well, about 80% of our sales are medium. So, you probably need a medium. But people can get the try before you buy and go, oh, this is a little too tight in my hands. And maybe I use gloves when it gets cold out because I live in Vermont and, hunt in the cold all the time. So maybe I should get a large, but now it really helps people just decide what size they need.
Yeah. I thought it was ingenious. I've never opened up somebody's webpage and saw one of the products on there that said free, just pay shipping. That was pretty awesome and pretty innovative, really innovative.
Yeah, and if you walk by our booth, we got a huge, in Vegas, we had a huge Yeti cooler full of try before you buys, and when they were all out, we gave the Yeti cooler away, and we do a lot of fun stuff with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, tell me a little bit. I know that I'm seeing your sites, especially on bows that aren't necessarily just target bows. They are bow hunting with these sites, and are you also a bow hunter? And
I am.
Tell me a little bit about when you got into that and that transition from. It sounds like you started out a target archer.
Yeah, definitely started out on the target side. And since we've grown up as a company and got more involved in this industry, we've naturally, really how it started was people were buying our target scopes or our target products, and they were making a small tweak or just using them straight up for their bow hunting.
Right.
And our UltraView 2 scope for the longest time was just a target scope. And then we came out with the up pin cartridge in it. And then we saw, sales of the hunting kit started to outpace the target kit sales. And, we're a very data driven company, and we're like, well, maybe there's something here. And so we just naturally started making, we transitioned our line to more premium bow hunting. And that's when kind of I personally also kind of started transitioning, how I participate in the sport of archery. Like you said, I was a fanatic when it came to target archery, but over the last several years, I shoot a hunting bow now way more often than I pick up a target bow. And since then I've been more involved on going on hunts, and I try to get them more scheduled. And, whether you are going out on hunts or not, what is the most fun I've ever had with a bow is a total archery challenge. For me being like a target archery guy at the core, and now just really over the last several years getting involved into the bow hunting. And I'm, Chris B and I are like, we're best friends. We actually competed against each other a lot way back in the day. So I hang out with Chris a lot. But total archery challenges, man, those are just like, they hit me just right now. You're out on the course, shooting 100-yard, practice shots with beautiful country. You guys are out in Utah every day, so you kind of get those views. But man, like, just it's so much fun.
Yeah, it definitely is. What species so far that you've gone after is your favorite one to hunt so far?
Well, I can't answer that because I have never been elk hunting yet.
Yeah.
But I can tell you right now that is going to be my favorite species to hunt. And we're getting, it's tricky. I got to get it lined up. And I've been so plugged in here, at headquarters, and just trying to keep mothership here running. It's been difficult because, I mean, every person listening to this knows how much time goes into bow hunting. We are at UltraView, we're very conscious of that. We're very customer first, and all of our products are designed so that you can spend more time bow hunting, UV slider, stay in the moment, right? Like the 10 seconds that you have to be at your peak, our products are designed to keep you in that moment. But I've really, really want to go on elk hunt. We've been, typically we launch products like earlier in the season, August. So normally we got to get, some hunts in for that. And it's typically always axis deer, so
yeah,
trips to Texas in July for axis deer.
That just sounds awesome.
Are becoming a commonality here. But Chris texts me at least once a week, like, "Hey man, I got these dates on an elk hunt. Like, what does your schedule look like?"
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, you got to learn to delegate so that you can be gone part of September, man.
That's the thing.
What it comes down to.
I'm delegating as fast as I can. No.
This is such a trip because I commented on your age immediately, and I was thinking, God, he must have got into this like as soon as he graduated or something. Well, no, he started before he graduated. This was rolling like while you were in school. That's what an amazing story.
Like I said, I'm still very close to a lot of the startups, and I work with a lot of them at Georgia Tech, and it's tough because I see a lot of these students where they have a fantastic idea, unrivaled product, and yet they have just been in it for a year or two. They don't know much about their industry, their marketplace, their customer, and it's a little unfair kind of when people externally look at UltraView's trajectory. It looks like, oh, you made some scopes, you won an Inventure prize, and you hit the hockey stick curve, and look at where you're at. And that's not really the full story, because for 6 years before UltraView, I never planned to start the business. It was never a plan.
Right.
But 6 years before it was even a thing, I was traveling the world, shooting and competing, and I didn't know it at the time, but networking and making contacts. And, Evan and I knew each other before UltraView was a thing. And, likewise, Lancaster, Rob Koffold. I was traveling. I went to Argentina with Rob Koffold for a world championship before UltraView was even a thing.
Yeah.
So when I just happened to have started a business, it was relatively easy for me to know, who are quality resellers, who are not, who should we reach out to for this? And, maybe so I had a 6-year head start before the business had even started.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, we have some questions that we put out there to some of our social media followers to see if anybody had anything that. I mean, you guys are brand new in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
You're still running into people that this is they walk into a store and they come out and they're saying, "Man, I saw this awesome new site." Well, it's been there for a little while now, but they're still learning about it. And we actually got a lot of questions. Evan, you kind of steamrolled that situation and picked out a few that you liked. Why don't we throw a few of those at it?
Yeah. So, appreciate all the guys that interacted through the Instagram page on, getting some questions over to us. I kind of want to start with slider and work backwards. So we'll start with your more recent products being that slider, then maybe come back to some releases. The big question that a lot of guys have asked is plans for a 5-pin adjustable instead of just the 3.
It's a great question. So the beautiful thing about our scope technology is the cartridge system. So for those who don't know, with any UltraView scope, and of course our UV slider has an UltraView scope on it, there's 2 cartridges on the scope. One's a light cartridge that you can very conveniently remove with a set screw, and you no longer have electronics, so you can hunt in states if you can't use electronics. The front cartridge is your pin cartridge. And so a really slick thing is you can take this cartridge out, pop a new one in, and our center pin's fixed. So you could go from a horizontal 3-pin to a vertical 1-pin, vertical 2-pin, vertical 3-pin, and your marks won't change because this indicator will always line up with it. And so I know a 5-pin is in high demand, and I can just leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
So it sounds like they're thinking about this, or they're aware.
I'm very much aware of the 5-pin. I very much want a 5-pin in our catalog because I know there's a huge demographic out there that would prefer one and would like to use one. We have it, we sell it. It's a very popular SKU for us. We sell a vertical 3-pin. You can't adjust it. And if you read comments on Instagram or Facebook, people either love it or people are like, that pin gap doesn't make sense. Why would I want a 20, 35, 51 yard pin gap? People don't get it, but we're trying to now, fill our catalog with cartridges that fit everybody's needs. And like I said, with our scope technology, we don't have to, completely redesign the thing to fit that in. Yeah. But a 5-pin is personally very high on my list.
Yeah. I am glad you mentioned the 3-pin because the second most popular question regarded a 3-pin vertical adjustable system.
Adjustable. I knew, Evan, I just felt like that was going to be the next one.
I'm trying to steer the ship just a little bit.
Yeah. So actually, they're a vertical. I understand why people want this because I want it too. And actually, if I had to pick personally between a horizontal 5-pin and a vertical adjustable 3-pin, 2 SKUs of which we don't even sell right now, right? Personally, I would probably pick that vertical adjustable 3-pin because your scope picture is going to be, a lot more open, right. And it's so easy to engage and slide our sight. You don't really need, a dozen marks for every yardage, So the vertical adjustable 3-pin is higher than the horizontal 5-pin on my personal list. Although I will tell you, a vertical. Now we don't come out with something unless it meets, our standards internally, and it's something that we would feel proud recommending to our friends and family to use. We don't just come out with something to get it out in the market because we know people will buy it because there's a need or a want, right? So we don't just come out with anything. A vertical adjustable 3-pin is a very complicated, compact system. There's a lot of moving parts in a small space. When you look at trying to keep that vertical pin as skinny as possible and utilizing as much openness in that scope as possible, you don't want to start eating space up in that bottom of the scope, because that bottom of the scope's really your prime real estate if you had to use one of those bottom pins. And so, similar to the 5-pin, we are thinking about it almost every day. And when we do come out with a vertical adjustable 3-pin or a horizontal 5-pin, I can promise you that it's probably going to be the best mechanism, the best pin, horizontal or vertical, on the market. And it's something that we're going to feel proud to come out with.
Nice.
That's awesome. With archers, period, but for bow hunters, me, for instance, I've been a horizontal 5-pin guy forever. And when I get into the moment of truth, there's no thought for me anymore. I've had lots of people tell me, oh, you really need to try a 3-pin. You need to try a 3-pin. And I did very briefly, but I found myself having to think about that during the moment of truth. You know what I mean? And whereas, I'm so locked in my head about the, 20 through 60, and then I'll adjust if I'm, beyond that. And I can just say it's hard to get somebody who's been doing it for years to see things differently. You know what I mean? And to train themselves into something else. So I'm excited. The long story short here is Kolby's basically, he's saying, stay tuned.
Yeah, it is.
Stay tuned.
I'll tell you that those two options are probably closer on our horizon than other things you may bring up on this call.
Yeah.
So I can leave it at that.
What else we got, Evan?
What about a 3-pin in the smaller housing?
That I can't answer. We probably won't have a 3-pin in that smaller housing for a couple reasons. We try to keep with our UV slider system. Watch this. I can just very conveniently quick break that off so I can show you the scope.
Awesome.
In our scope here, this is the horizontal 3-pin that comes with UV slider. It has at the bottom there that little tiny bonus pin.
Yep.
Now, this is very much a bonus pin. It's like a for fun, the caribou attack if you're just out back shooting with your buddies and having a good time. Because it's really far down in the scope housing, and it's designed for long distance shots. Like we don't recommend hunting with the pin.
Now,
it's a top of the bubble pin.
Yeah. Yes.
And I mean, people have been using the top of the bubble for a very long time.
And that's actually exactly, they said, let's put a bonus pin in. And one of our engineers was like, well, where should we put it? I said, right on top of the bubble.
So
right.
On that real quick, you have 2 different size pins in that housing, right? Your first 3 are actually 15 thousandths, and then the bottom bonus pin is a 10, correct?
Correct. Okay. So it's 15, 15, 15, and this one's a little 10 thou. And the reason why, we'll get back to the vertical 3-pin on the small scope here in a second, but I would love to have these in 19 thou fibers too. 19 is a very popular size. A lot of guys love it. The actual reason why we don't have these in 19 is because the fiber just won't fit in the tube up front. Our tubing up front we can't just make that bigger. It's got to fit these channels. And when we first came out with the UV3 scope 2.5, maybe 3 years ago now, we had no idea UV slider and the ecosystem was going to evolve to what it is today. So 15 thousandths is actually the largest as we can go and still have all those fibers fit in that tubing. But our vertical 3-pin in the XL scope, your top pin in that 3-pin is actually your middle pin in this scope, and your bottom pin on our vertical post lines up with the bonus pin.
Okay.
And when you get a UV slider, there's an extra indicator that comes with it. There's a extra yellow indicator.
Mm-hmm.
You can pop this cover off and put in a new fixed yellow indicator to give you your mark for that bonus pin. But what that's also going to do is, if you have a vertical post, you take out this top indicator here, you'll leave that in, you'll swap this out for the double one, and now you have 1, 2, and you'll have 3 indicators for each of your vertical posts. There's not enough room in our UV3 to have that pin gap from the top to the bottom. That bottom pin would actually be behind the level.
Gotcha.
So to have a 3-pin small scope, we'd have to change our pin gap and then also have a different indicator for the sight. It's a huge mess. And most guys prefer for hunting the larger scopes. So for now, that's just where we're at.
Cool. What about custom configurations for colors? We had some questions about potentially putting in red, or myself, I feel like green naturally gathers more light. So I've been running a 3-pin slider for years and running all green, and even using that bonus pin as green, because again, it gathers more light naturally. And on a brown target, whether it's a target or an animal, for tacks and things like that, I feel like that yellow can sometimes get washed out.
No, I agree with you 100%. And if it was just my decision, all our pins would be green, period. But we do know there's guys out there that like to have different colored pins. And we actually spent a lot of time working on what pin colors collect the best light and look the best and don't, flare out and the whole shebang. And our old scopes actually used to go, I believe it was red, green, red. And then when we came out with UV slider, we had an opportunity to kind of update the whole scope line. That's when we shifted to green, yellow, green. And we found that the yellow collected more sunlight and was more consistent than red. That being said, customizing pin colors is, logistically speaking, in the operations room a couple doors down, is complicated. We probably won't have in the short term custom pin colors, although in the short term, now, I guess let me ask you guys a question. When is this podcast going to go up?
Well, my goal is to have this up on Friday.
Okay, so this is still relevant. Monday, as in 2 days ago, was the first day since launching UV slider where we have actually had them readily available and in stock. So now that we are officially and finally kind of caught back up with the huge demand that we've had on this product, in the short term, I would like to have some customizability, kind of on our website for those who want it. You can pick your dial grip or your color for your dual dial here, because this kind of pops off and you can swap the colors on your dual dial, or this Viz ring, you can pop this out, and we sell these in every color under the sun. And so for those who want to buy it directly from us, it's very easy for our operations team to just, swap this out and put a red one in or something like that. So that's something in the short term, now that we're finally caught back up, I would love to offer. But the pin colors is, man, that's a can of worms, let me tell you.
I can see that. And I actually, the red is the only one that I have a really hard time with, and I'm kind of unique because I'm colorblind, which is not, it's a misnomer. It's not actually, you're not blind to color. You should be called color deficient.
Right.
And like Evan was talking about, I think everybody has a harder time seeing red against some brown targets and things like that. And it doesn't seem to gather the light. To me, it doesn't usually matter whether it's green or yellow. Both of them are very bright, considerably brighter than red for me. Yep.
And so, do you guys know Chuck Cooley? He's been with archery lenses forever. He's a lens guru. I've known Chuck for longer than UltraView's been a thing, forever. He started Feather Vision lenses way back in the day, sold that. He now is, one of the masterminds behind X-Focus lenses, which is where we source all of our premium, lenses from here for UV scopes. They have the doublet lens, which is the best lens, period, ever made for archery. Well, Chuck told me that the reason why, and he knows how lenses and the eyes work, right? He told me green is so easy for a lot of people to see because it's actually in the middle of the light spectrum.
The spectrum.
So the visible light spectrum for humans, is red, red, and then it transitions, green's in the middle, and then it goes down to purple and ultraviolet. And so because it's in the middle of our visible light spectrum for humans, it's very easy for us to see it, and it's easily identifiable. So that's why. And I said, since I've started shooting, I've never used a different color other than green, even for 3D. A lot of guys love blue. For 3D. Yep. And I still prefer, and I love green. I think the reason why they prefer blue is actually the opposite. They can get it very, very, very dull. And a lot of the top 3D guys, I haven't been to a 3D shoot in a little while now, but a couple of years ago when I was at one, I was talking to all the pros, and as far as I could tell, a lot of the reasons why they like blue is actually because it gets so dull. And when they're shooting on a lot of these animals, it's in a very, very dark hole. Some of the toughest shots you'll ever make are on some of these 3D courses. And they have to see these tiny little scoring rings at 50 yards. And they actually dial that pin brightness down to where it's just barely visible and you can almost kind of see through it. But it's a very interesting topic. We could talk pin colors all day long.
Yeah. It just doesn't starburst as much on them.
That too. Yes.
Like the older I get, my eyes are getting to the point where I'm dealing with that more than I used to. But man, Evan, you got another?
Oh yeah,
one
we're still on sliders.
All right.
Other color options.
Just for like the slider
just
in
general. So you've got the black anodized. Now that you guys are caught up, has there been discussion around either powder coat options or something like that to pair with other manufacturers' colors such as our Wilderness, Tombstone, things like that?
Right. So occasionally what you'll see us do kind of at UltraView, or what we call our limited edition runs, we've already done it. We did it last year with UV button. I guess this can be a little Easter egg for you guys, but this is the first time it's ever been said so far. We do have more limited edition buttons coming out here soon, so stay tuned for that. But I think what you may see are maybe limited edition color drops that pair great. Would you imagine how awesome that would look?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Although for us, like I said, logistically speaking, we just got caught back up with this product. And I promise you, it was not because we weren't shipping them out that back door. Every time I have to walk past our fulfillment dock to get to the operations side of our facility at least 3 or 4 times a day. Every time I walk by, they're not pallets. We ship big boxes, but they would be pallets and pallets of shipments out that back door every day. And so logistically, it's very difficult for us to add in SKU colors always. But what we can do is do deliberately planned drops of very custom, very inline, very, deliberate colors. So I think that's an option in the future. Is it in the short term? Because we got caught back up 2 days ago. Right. It's probably not anytime soon for UV slider. But on other lines like UV button, we have one coming up here pretty soon. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
You know what? One thing that I would like him to do, take that scope out again and just tell us about some of the unique features.
Because it has one of the most unique lateral or horizontal left-right adjustments in the industry. And there was a specific question about how you came up with that internal gear design.
That's actually, so there's a lot that goes into UV slider that makes it feel so great in your hand and easy to use. And gosh, where do I want to start with this? Let me think here.
Start with out of the package, like because it comes disassembled, right?
Yeah,
so,
I could.
so
Yeah,
so
so it
you
comes.
got that lock button on the bottom for assembly.
Yeah, let me put this right here. So when you get it in the package, the dial scope is actually separated from the rack and the rail here, and it's in a travel case and it's presented all nice. We have a quick start guide because one of the unique things when we had this product and it was still a secret, and we were showing people behind closed doors, is we would hand it to them out of the box and they'd spend a couple minutes just trying to figure out how to put this thing together because of a very unique feature that we developed called Quick Break. It's this little latch on the bottom of the rack where you can unrack your whole scope dial assembly. Now, this is rugged. We had people out in the woods last fall, destroy. The first thing Chris does is he breaks things. And, he still has the same slider that he hunted with that we gave him, over a year ago. But you don't really want to hike through thick brush with your scope just out there, or just travel, with it attached. So you can just quickly break it apart or pop it on like this and you're ready to go. Because we were in a design meeting and we racked it all the way to the bottom and it stopped. And we were just like, well, wait a second. It'd be so easy to just put a latch there and then you can just take it off.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why, that's more of a result or symptom of the mechanism that makes this so special. And it's that your windage, your elevation, your anti-backlash gear system, everything is in this very tight, compact package. Mm-hmm. And at the heart of UV slider is this dual dial mechanism. And the reason why dual dial is so special is your windage is nested inside of your elevation dial. Every other sliding sight on the market, their windage is located somewhere around this dial. And typically what you'll find is when you engage with other sites and try to go slide them, your knuckles jam up against the windage. So not only does it make it very hard to use, but it makes the whole mechanism bigger and bulkier and more joints, more bolts, more things to go wrong. And so we condensed it right in the knob. That was the most logical place for the windage to sit, mm-hmm. that it made it so easy to use. And that's, like I said, the heart of UV slider. And inside of this actually is a very nifty anti-backlash mechanism. So with Quick Break, another thing is you can break it apart. You can clean this sucker out. Yeah. Those are all your gear teeth right there. Your rack teeth are right here. So if you get a real dusty or dirty bow, clean it right up. But you'll see that these gear teeth are angled. So see how those are angled? Yeah. So not only are they angled, but they're drafted. And in there, if you look really, really hard, you can see it. So such a great idea that the engineers came up with. They're O-rings. And the O-rings push up against a cone. And as you push those O-rings up against the cone, they expand. And what it does is it provides a spring force to nest these gears that are angled. It pushes the angled teeth together to hold everything super rock solid, very snug, but provides enough compliance for you to slide everything. And that's when you rack UV slider and you're moving it up and down. It's a super tight, no slop. Other sites, if you unlock it, the whole mechanism will kind of be loose, or it may fall. But with that anti-backlash design that the engineers came up with, you can unlock it, and you got to push real hard to move it, but it's so easy to glide, and then you can relock it, and it's not going to move. It's locked, but you can override this. And I've seen comments on the internet, oh, the gear teeth are going to strip out or they're going to crack. I mean, you could never unlock this sight. You could only function it doing this. It's going to be totally fine. Yeah. In fact, a gear teeth can even break and it would still function and you won't know. You'd have to have 2 gear teeth break in consecutive order for you to even tell a difference. And we've never, ever seen that happen.
That was, to me, the first time that I put my hands on one. the complete lack of slop. And I was talking about tolerances. I was like, God, how did they take what was already seemed to be tight tolerances that a lot of these companies had, and yours feels obviously tighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like that's the secret to it, I guess.
It was from one, and like I said, it was a cascading effect of one just great design decision right after the other, proven with engineering facts. Our VP of product here he's always like, show me the proof, show me why. Like, why is this better? Prove it to me. And every single idea, every single minute design decision that was done in this was, proven for reason. And as a result, when you stack those all up, I mean, it's an awesome sight.
Yeah. Now, the piece that you pulled out of the center just a minute ago, tell me a little bit about that. The white piece that came out of the center of the scope and is interchangeable.
So we call these our Viz rings. For the longest time, we didn't even have these on our scopes.
Mm-hmm.
So for the longest time, our scopes just looked like this. And it wasn't very long before people were asking for visibility rings, and there were a lot of aftermarket ones. And it actually took us a little while to come up with. Now, we already had this scope designed. We didn't think about a Viz ring in designing the scope. When we designed UV3, it was a target scope. And then we made pivots year over year to make it more bow hunting. Mm-hmm. And so in target archery, none of us really subscribed to a color ring around the scope. And the reason why for target archery is because we always use the smallest peep size that you can possibly use and look through and have good lighting. And a lot of the times, George coached this, it works. It works. You can't even really see the outside of your scope. So long as you can see the level and your pin is in the middle, you're good. Mm-hmm. And your groups just tighten right up. But for bow hunting, obviously, it's a much darker, at that final light, you have larger peeps, and it is harder to center your scope in your peep. It took us a long time to come up with a snap fit. We didn't want to use an adhesive because adhesives aren't great. And, it pops right in, just like that, right over the level. And it doesn't neck in any more than the idea of the O-rings. And it provides a really great flat, slightly concave Viz ring to really line it up. And we sell these, like I said, in pretty much every color under the sun. Red, orange, pink, white comes with it. I don't think we sell black, but pretty much every other color. Yeah.
Does that white seem to gather more light in low light situations than the other colors?
I think so. Yes. My personal preference is the white or the green. Mm-hmm. I really like a fluorescent green. I actually have them right here. The only thing I do have in this room, I guess. So like this is our green. So you can, just pop this out, put a new one back in, and now this is your green. Now, the great thing about this too, I mean, we threw a lot of constraints at the engineers. These had to be back compatible with any older UV3 or UV3 XL scopes. This black scope is our SE edition, so it's the slider edition. So it works with these new ones, but it also works with any of our old UV3s as well. So it took a lot of work for that. It wouldn't look that way, right? But I know it was a lot of work for them to use no adhesives, make it be sleek and sexy, be back compatible, and all of that. So,
well, once again, a lot of concentration on the customer and the customer experience, and that there's a lot of customers or a lot of companies out there that don't care if they've got to go buy a new one to get the upgrade. That's pretty forward thinking for you to make it back compatible with everything.
That was a big thing, actually. A little behind the scenes on UV slider, we bit off a little bit more than we could chew in developing the product. We wanted to design a whole new scope system at the same time too, and UV slider was actually we had known we wanted to make one, but from start to launch date, was like 11 and a half months. Like it wasn't even a full year. It was a lot. And
you guys got on that
6
project.
months, oh my, yeah, it was, yeah. And 6 months in, we wanted to redesign a whole new light, whole new everything. We're like, we don't have it in the calendar to do that. We started with the site side because we didn't even have a site yet, right? So we started on that. That's when we developed the dual dial, quick break, triple mark, like the whole site. And then we got to the scope side, and we're like, well, what the heck are we going to do? And that's like, we're like, okay, our scopes right now are sales were still increasing. People were still discovering them for the first time. People were loving them. We're like, well, can we just make some updates to our existing scope line and put it on UV slider? And that's what we chose to do. So in that, we updated our cartridge, and this was the tough part. Like I said, all the cartridges, all the lights had to be back compatible to old scopes. So how do we make a new? And that's why we didn't change the name. It's still UV3. It's still UV3 XL. It just has an SE on the end of it. And all of our cartridges, all of our old lights had to be back compatible, but we wanted to improve our cartridge system. So in our newer scopes, there are rubber pads, and we actually have this retained set screw system. So our old gray scopes, if the set screw came loose, or if you just didn't tighten it all the way, or what have you, it could fall out, it could rattle. With this new cartridge system, we have rubber pads in there for added compliance, and we only have one set screw per cartridge, and it's flanged, so you cannot back it out all the way. You could actually loosen this completely, and the snug fit from the pads, the cartridges won't fall out, and it won't rattle.
That's awesome.
So huge improvement. They made it back compatible. I mean, they hit it out of the park on this one for sure. And there's just so much that goes into UV slider. It's just really hard for us to, cover it all on a lot of our marketing material. But now that we're caught back up, we're going to, hit the ground running and, let the world know that everything that really is baked into UV slider.
So with you guys getting caught up now, is there potentially going to be an option in the future and moving forward where they can buy the slider itself without a housing for those that may already have it and are utilizing it?
That's a great question, and I have a great answer. So when we originally launched the product, we knew we didn't have enough, it was a lot, and we knew it was gonna blast out of the park, right? So when we originally launched, the site only option was on our website, but we just weren't offering it for sale because we knew it was going to be crazy. Well, I think it was wildly successful beyond what we could even imagine. And what we actually learned after launch is there are several inline QC checks on. I mean, we have 2 full assembly lines running every day here on UV slider. Each line, I think it varies, but each line has anywhere from 10 to 12 staff specifically on the line. Now there's other subsidiary lines, but pointless to that. There's an inline QC where you need to have a scope on it to check for what we call internally windage wobble. And so there's a V block here, and they literally have torque settings, and they get it locked in with the scope that comes onto it. And if we did not have the scope on it, it would be very hard for us to test the windage wobble. And so what we've found is UV sliders are flying off the shelf. A dealer will get 12 in on a Friday. They'll unpack them and they'll be out fresh on a Saturday morning, and those sliders are gone by Sunday. They're gone. And so to maintain the quality of a product that, like I said, we would feel proud to recommend to our friends and family to use, we want to assemble start to finish full scope or full sites, testing for all inline QCs for things such as that windage wobble. And that was just something we learned after the fact. So I don't know what our operations team has in the pipeline, if they have a solution for this yet, but I do know in the short term, we are planning on continuing to sell UV slider as the full site, and I am unsure and this is 100% honest and transparent, I am unsure if we will have the sight only option come out in the future, because I mean, it's been an animal to keep up with it as it is anyway.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to have any hair left in the next 10 years.
Well, you might have some. It just isn't going to be anything other than
that.
Like,
man, what a story. I wasn't expecting this. This is it's a cool, unique story that is unlike any others that I've heard, where somebody started in the middle of college and this quickly after you graduated has the company up to the level that you guys are at right now. It's just amazing.
It's been a little painful, I'll tell you that. But
I
mean,
bet.
we have at our facility, we're trying to figure out where everybody's going to the bathroom. We may have to put portal potties out back. We don't have enough parking spaces anymore. We just recently last month crossed, I think it was 50 employees now, and I don't I literally will drive in the morning and I have to drive around out back and then still struggle to find a parking spot out back. And it's become the best thing that I feel like. The thing that really makes me feel the best about it is it's become bigger than myself now. And we have a team here who are just as passionate, just as motivated, fully on board. Our core values are passion, grit, and growth, and they are fully on board with it. And it's just the most amazing thing to really be able to step back and then watch a group of highly motivated individuals just really get after it and just do some amazing work. Like a very small example was the designing of this site. I was involved, yes, but we have a full team of product design engineers here working full-time, working their butts off to come out with the best and the most premium equipment for bow hunters. And that's just our product team. We have a full operations team. We just now started onboarding very rapidly, and a sales and a full customer service team. And we're growing our marketing team, and some of their work is like some of the best work I've ever seen. And it's a really awesome feeling to see what was kind of just an idea or a dream to become way bigger than what I could have ever imagined it to be. And now UltraView is its own thing, like I could get hit by a bus and UltraView is still going to be out there being UltraView. And I think that's what, when I get a second to just stand still and have some moment of clarity, that's really what, makes me feel proud about all the guys here and the whole team's hard work.
I've got a ton of respect for what you've done. It's pretty incredible, honestly. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, you guys have experienced just unprecedented growth and success in such a rapid amount of time. What is one or two of the main lessons that you have learned from being that entrepreneur and now, you're your own boss and business owner as you guys have grown? What are one or two of those valuable lessons that you've learned along this journey?
Oh, I've been very fortunate that I've had a lot of great mentors, along the way. One of our core values is growth. That's not just, more sales, more product. That's really what it means is personal and professional growth. Every time I've reached a roadblock, it's required me to stretch myself, learn something new, be uncomfortable, right? And I really give a lot of my, strategic thinking, if that's what you want to call it, to who I surround myself with and my mentors. And to answer your question, I think one of the things I've learned is that if you put the customer first, like I said, our mission, very simple: unrivaled customer experiences. And unrivaled happens to have a UV in it, by the way. One of the lessons I've learned is it may not pay off in the short term to put the customer first and prioritize unrivaled customer experiences. But if you're like I said, obsessively focused on the customer and their experience and their needs and their problems, then I don't see, if you're actually solving real problems and you're actually providing real unrivaled customer experiences, eventually that's going to work out, and eventually you will have a wildly successful organization.
Right.
And, that's something that was taught to me very early on, at Georgia Tech in these, it's called CreateX is the program, and a lot of these entrepreneurial startup ecosystems. And whenever I was in a meeting this morning, and we were like, well, what do we want this forecast to be? This number is a massive Excel spreadsheet, and we had 5 guys in a room arguing about where are we putting product and all. And I'm like, guys, let's step back. What makes the most sense for the customer? What would the customer want? What makes their experience with us better?
Mm-hmm.
And when you kind of get out of the weeds in the fire and you pull back, yeah, like I said, short term, and a lot of times it doesn't even hurt you in the short term, but it may. But like long term, if you prioritize that, unless you just have like an unprofitable business model or something like that, I mean, in the long term, I see that's the only thing that businesses are out there should be focused on.
Well, man, all of this has been extremely impressive. And in case any of you listening have been, under a rock, why don't you give them an idea of where they can find you? I think it's bow shops everywhere, all of your major box stores. But, tell them about the website, your social media, things like that.
Yeah. So everything, every single one of our products is available, shipping same or next day from UltraViewArchery.com. Although as we grow, we are working every day more and more with more dealers and distributors. And, a quick little note is I think a lot of dealers, maybe not a lot of people in bow hunting because we're still brand new, but from my experience, a lot of dealers have heard about us. Mm-hmm. But what they know from UltraView was a dorm room company or a target archery company. And over the last several years, we've pivoted to prioritizing premium bow hunting equipment. And, we're developing and growing an internal sales team, and we're really trying to prioritize the dealers. The heart of the industry, the heart of the bow hunting and archery industry is at the dealer. They are why we exist, period. And, I think a lot of them are like, oh, that just doesn't fit well in my store. No, we're here now. We have a sales team. It's growing every day. Reach out and we'll take care of you best we can. But anywhere that's a premium, if you stock Hoyt bows, Hoyt is a premium bow manufacturer. We'd love to be right in line right next to it. Because if someone buys the top of the line Hoyt, they should be throwing a UV slider on it, is how I see it. Yep. And we have, we got dealer pricing. It's pretty easy to get set up. But yeah, anywhere that sells premium archery equipment, you can probably find UV equipment. And if they don't, I'd really appreciate it. I'd really appreciate it if you gave them a heads up.
Give them a call.
Yeah.
Well, man, we appreciate you coming on here, Kolby. We'll do it again for sure. And man, I've just been fascinated ever since I saw the product, and this just makes me a little bit more fascinated. The story behind it was pretty amazing.
Yep. Dude, it's been fun
for having me on, guys.
It's been fun to watch this grow. We got to meet back in 2016, and I've kind of seen small stages of it here and there, and gotten not to be a part of the journey, but to witness the journey really closely. And dude, just congratulations! Super proud of you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. It's been a lot, and I get worked up in a lot of the fires, and I try to step back when I can. But it's we're doing a lot of hard work here, and thanks for having me on and help spread the message.
We can't wait to see the next stages, because they're coming.
Oh, they're coming.
Can't wait to see how long your gray hair takes to grow in.
We have plenty of irons in the fire. Don't you worry about that.
Well, thanks, man. Appreciate it, Kolby.
Thanks, guys.